prosecutor was appointed by the Common Pleas Court. They did an investigation. Matters were submitted to the grand jury. The grand jury returned a multi-count indictment. There was a jury trial conducted by Judge Nato. 12 jurors, 12 peers of Ms. Hunter, found her guilty of one count of having an unlawful interest in a public contract, which was signed by all 12 jurors. The sentence was imposed by Judge Nato on December 5th, 2014. He imposed that sentence, Judge Nato ordered Ms. Hunter to come to the Justice Center on the 29th of December 2014 to begin the sentence. That was stayed by our First District Court of Appeals. On January 15, 2016, in a 3-0 decision, the First District Court of Appeals affirmed the trial court, found that Ms. Hunter had received a fair trial. The Ohio Supreme Court, in an entry dated May 18, 2016, and I quote, declines to accept jurisdiction pursuant to Supreme Court Practice Rule 7.08b4. In other words, there was not enough there for the Ohio Supreme Court to even review the case. They didn't take it in. They lifted their stay. They said, go ahead, court, proceed with the execution of the sentence. The defendant then appealed, filed a habeas corpus in the federal court. Judge Black then stayed the execution of the sentence. After that, federal magistrate Judge Karen Likovitz reviewed the case. On May 9, 2017, she submitted a report and recommendation to Judge Black recommending that Hunter's petition for writ of habeas corpus be denied with prejudice. The defendant objected to that report, and on May 29, 2019, 2 years later, Judge Timothy S. Black, the United States District Judge, issued a decision. I think it is appropriate at this point to just, I've read it, just share for the record a couple things. On page 2, and I quote, early in these proceedings, Hunter's attorney stated, quote, regardless of whether this federal court ultimately agrees with Judge Hunter on the merits of her claims, this case presents an opportunity for the federal court to restore lost confidence in the justice system by giving Judge Hunter a fair opportunity to be heard in federal court, a venue that the community trusts as being above local politics before she is put in jail. Judge Black then says this federal court now discharges that duty with this decision. He goes on further on page 22 to say, the last paragraph, nevertheless, in summary as to this objection, the evidence at trial that Hunter had delivered to her brother documents to which he was not entitled for the purpose of protecting his employment as a juvenile correction officer at the Hamilton County Youth Center, as well as the testimony regarding Hunter's additional conduct intervening on her brother's behalf, and I quote, strongly supports the jury's verdict that Hunter was guilty of having an unlawful interest in a public contract. That's the federal judge saying this. The federal judge goes on further to say this strong evidence, I quote, strong evidence supporting the jury's verdict on count 6 undermines petitioner's claim that the verdict was a result of the inflammatory and prejudicial effect of remarks made by the special prosecutor during closing argument. On page 25, the federal judge, Judge Black, then says, conclusion, number 1, the report and recommendation is adopted in its entirety. That is Magistrate Likovitz. Number 2, petitioner's objections and respondent's objections are overruled. Skip 3, 4, petitioner's petition for writ of habeas corpus pursuant to 28 U.S.C. section 2254 is denied with prejudice and dismissed. Goes on, paragraph 7, the court's prior order granting petitioner's emergency motion for stay of execution of sentence is hereby set aside and vacated. And 8, the court shall enter judgment accordingly, whereupon this case is terminated on the docket of this court, that is the federal court. After that, and because she's represented by very, very good lawyers, the lawyers then went to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, where they filed for a writ of habeas corpus. I'll just read part of on the last page in their order, which was dated July 18, 2019, and I quote, Hunter has not demonstrated she is likely to succeed on the merits of her claim that she was denied a constitutionally fair trial as a result of the improper remarks by the prosecutor. Goes on to say she has not demonstrated she will suffer any additional irreparable harm in the absence of a stay, and the United States Supreme Court has noted, quote, the state's strong interest in enforcing its criminal judgments without due interference from federal courts, the interest of the state and the public Court of Appeals. The only thing left is the Supreme Court, and I doubt that they're going to take it in. They all did their duty, and now it's my turn. To follow my oath, uphold the rule of law. In this case, the law certainly permits it. And I believe justice, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just 1 second. I'm sorry.
That's right, that's fine. With that, in this case, I believe the law permits the execution of the sentence, and I know justice gets thrown around a lot, but I think justice demands in this particular case. So the court, Ms. Hunter, orders the execution of the sentence imposed on December 5th, 2014 by Judge Nadel. That is as follows: 1 year community control, that's non-reporting. Since you will be on community control, I will advise you, as I'm required to by law, that if you violate any of the conditions of the community control, come back in front of me. I will sentence you to 18 months, the Ohio Department of Corrections. It is a felony of the 4th degree. The conditions of the community control are real simple, as indicated in the judgment entry by Judge Nadel. Number 1, you pay the cost of these proceedings. Number 2, you are to do not violate any laws. And number 3, you are to do 6 months in the Hamilton County Justice Center, credit 1 day. Mr. or Ms. Deputy, you can take her away.
Look at this.
Okay, we have been staying with this here moments after the Judge Patrick Dingelacker gave down the sentence that Judge Norbert Nadel issued back in 2014. 6 months minus 1 day. Courtroom erupted. It was fairly quiet up until that point. We are going to re-rack, if you're just tuning in here, this is the sentencing of Judge Tracy Hunter. We are going to re-rack our videotape that we have. And go back to the moment she basically laid flat on the ground as deputies tried to take her to start serving her sentence at the Hamilton County Justice Center, and that's when the courtroom erupted.
And tensions have really been flaring for the last 5 to 10 minutes when the judge did hand down this sentence of 6 months in jail minus 1 day that she'll get credit for. Now, the judge, Tracy Hunter, did try to speak there at the end. The judge denied her the opportunity because he had previously offered her a chance at rebuttal along with her counsel that she at that time did not take.
And you mentioned how tensions flared as soon as that the sentencing was handed down. One may say, too, from watching this, it was like a pot on a stove. We're reaching that boil point throughout the entire court proceedings here this morning as the judge was reading letters that he had gotten to his home, quoting judge protocol and whatnot.